What's up, everybody? Welcome to Get Book Solid. What's up, David Meltzer? Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. I am book solid today and super excited about it. And most excited about when I study my calendar, seeing the amazing Doctors of Love, Shawn and Lacey. What's up, 528?
What's up,
Good
528?
morning.
What's up, 528?
It's 528.
That's the love frequency, 528 megahertz.
Got it. We're the love doctors.
Exactly.
I love it.
Hey, I want to talk today about getting over yourself on getting book solid. I was thinking that, even for you waking up and being on this show at 6 a.m. Pacific time, drinking your vodka straight out of your master's cup in the morning, we got to admire that. But so many people can't do content. And they know that they have a gift to share with the world. They know that they have a moral obligation to communicate that gift to the world, but then they just get stuck. And then all of these things come up. We start to say, well, I'm a perfectionist. I don't know what to say. I don't know how I'll look. I don't know what people will say about it. I don't know what people want to hear. And then we have all these other people that, frankly, if we scroll social media, they're putting out all kinds of gobbledygook, right? Stuff that the most popular content sometimes and oftentimes is not the best content. It's just that people that show up and they've managed to get over themselves. And Lacey and I have a passion for helping the world's greatest service providers who live in the darkness of obscurity simply because they will not share their gifts. We want to help them today by helping them get over themselves. So I'd love it if we have a conversation about how we can get over ourselves and begin to share our gifts more freely with the world.
There's two dilemmas when you're speaking of getting over ourselves and understanding the authorship of ideas. And first dilemma is the author's dilemma. And I used to laugh when I'd work with, before social media, authors, inspiring authors. I can think of one of my good friends who invented Pictionary, and he wanted to get his story out. And it's a fabulous story. And he's a fabulous person with high frequency. But he had the author's dilemma of, I am never enough, right? The story is never enough. I'm never enough. And that is true. When you think of content today as you're an author, and so you have to get over the author's dilemma of understanding, especially today when there's so many small pieces and parts of content. You don't have to publish an entire book. You can do a 10-second video. That's okay. And to that measure, they were worried about nothing, because I used to tell people, no one's going to read your fucking book. In percentages, nobody's going to read your book. And believe it or not, you stated the second dilemma is, I'm bigger, I'm not worthy, but I'm bigger than I think I am. And so everyone is going to pay attention to my 10-second video. And the truth is, all of the most popular videos are low frequency. They're stupid. And because, let's just think about the majority of the people that have time to watch videos all day long. No offense to my wife, they're not at a high frequency, right? They're entertained by orangutans masturbating, these stupid ass videos. No, I'm dead serious. You guys are joking. I'm watching this all day long. And to that measure, people fool themselves all the time. They either aren't worthy enough or they think they're too worthy. And you just have to be real about, I'm going to share my message, and I keep my mindset into the meetup mindset of, I do the most power when people just meet up with me at my frequency and I can help them. And if it's 2 people, that's great. And I will get into huge rooms and 2 people will resonate with me and create unbelievable abundance with me. And a lot of the other people don't like me, and others don't really do anything with what they learn from me. But if there's 2 people, whether there's 2 people, or you get 2 people from 20,000 people, that's a lot of people to have impact for. So I think the 2 dilemmas are not worthy and thinking too much of yourself.
That's really interesting. I don't think I ever thought about the other side of it is thinking too much of yourself and that kind of spectrum that exists. You're either on one side or the other or somewhere in the middle, right? But a lot of what we talk about too, especially in the service world, is you really, you want to wake up and just ask the universe to put the people in front of you that you were meant to serve. And if you constantly go into things with that mindset, it's put the people and give the people to me that I was meant to serve. Like you were talking about, those people you were meant to serve are on that same frequency as you, right? So it's not about, am I too little? Am I too much? It's really about, I'm just right for the people that I was put on the planet to help. And whatever you put out, that is going to speak to those individuals. And it doesn't matter where you are on that spectrum.
Yeah. I also think that one of the interesting things is that, I mean, and I love that reframe that we either think we're too small or we actually think we're bigger than we actually are. One of the other things that I find is that a lot of people don't think that they're interesting. There's something that happens to us in our psychology when we have done something over and over and over again, and it becomes normal to us, and we don't realize that it's really interesting to other people. Now, in your case, David, you are very open and transparent, and you share about some rougher moments in your journey, and you're very open about that. And that's very interesting. But other people are like, well, look, I mean, that's Dave. And I mean, how many people have been through that? All my life is really boring compared to that. And so I'm not going to share that. And one of the things that Lacey and I do with our one-on-one clients is we do a deep dive, like a 3-hour exploration that begins with, tell us your creation story. And then they just get going and they're just saying like, well, I used to live, in the projects, and then I built my own bike, and like they say these really fascinating things. And we're like, wow, that is so interesting that you did this or you did that. And then I lived in India, right? They say these, and to them, it's just completely normal because that was the life that they lived. And they don't think that anybody else will, 1, find it interesting, or 2, be able to see the lessons that are in your story. And I think that's also a really important thing, because if we sit down, and I know that you catalog content, but if we just sat down and wrote down the lessons that we have learned from our boring to us life stories and began to share that, people will find that super interesting, because not everybody gets to do the things that anybody who's watching gets to do those things on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, the whole basis of content for me and the categorization and cataloging, what I call the capture, is lessons and stories. I have a repository of that which resonates with me. And so when I learn a lesson, I go ahead and capture the lesson. And then on Sundays, I go through the capture folder in my Outlook and I attach a notation, not a script, but a notation of a story. Now with AI, not only GPT, but DeepSeeker, which is even a more enhanced version of it, I can enhance my stories even quicker. And so I can tell them, hey, be more interested than interesting. Please create a story as if I'm David Meltzer, speaker, author, entrepreneur. Also give me insights from Napoleon Hill, Einstein, and Bob Proctor, and Shawn and Lacey. And it'll give me a whole story that I could go ahead and start utilizing in order to facilitate teaching or telling the lessons, because that's what's interesting to other people of what I'm interested in, which leads me to, as much as I've lived, an exciting and a very divergent life, it is about being more interested. Most people that resonate with me are interested in how I'm looking at it. The research I've done on time, the research that I've done on faith, the wisdom that I've acquired. And so you've said it there. The best way, I don't care if you think you're interesting, I care if you're interested. And so does everybody else in your in your content. So if you're illustrating what you're interested in, and you use your own life journey, other people's life journey, books, podcasts, interviews that you've seen, that becomes interesting to other people because you're more interested than interesting. And that's where that valuable lesson of mine comes in the context of content itself and the process of lessons and stories.
So this is an interesting topic because I think it's often difficult. Like when you say get out of your own way, and we get in our heads and we make assumptions on what other people will be interested in. And we talk to people all the time that they're like, the content that I put out, the stuff that I thought would hit, it did not. And the things that I thought nobody would care about are the stuff that got tons of engagement. And I think that's a little bit of what you're talking about. It's difficult for us to assume this is what people will find interesting or how I can portray that what I'm interested in. We make these assumptions and we get in our own way, and then we're putting out the wrong content instead of the content that people are actually attracted to.
I got to interject one thing. Here's some math that really can help people. So everybody's afraid of the unsubscriber.
Right.
They're afraid of the unsubscriber. I get into fights with Justin, who's the head of my media, because he's terrified. He reads into the unsubscriber. And I love the unsubscriber because there's a direct proportionality to the unsubscriber. So because of the way frequency works of what we're talking about in getting out of our own way, if 5% of the people unsubscribe, 5% of the people love you. And this is what I'm looking for. So I told him what makes President Trump so powerful is 50% of the people unsubscribe and 50% of the people love him. That's what makes you president. That's what makes you the most popular man on earth. That's what makes you the most powerful man on earth. Not, oh my gosh, 5% of the people, they unsubscribed to my newsletter. It was so annoying, Shawn, that I've invited them 6 times to a dinner. Oh shit, you got to change it. Quit inviting people. No, fucking double down and get 10% to unsubscribe. So 10% of the millions of people that love David Meltzer show the fuck up. And people don't get, because they're so afraid of the unsubscriber. Sorry.
Man, what you drink this morning?
Is there really vodka in that thing?
What the heck's going on here?
It's that Master's cup.
You get fired up about the Masters.
Diamond Life Fuel. I think I took too much Life Fuel.
Overdosed on the Life Fuel this morning.
I love that. That pisses me off.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one thing I will say I absolutely 1,000,000% agree on, is that you actually need to try to in your content, you need to strive for unsubscribes. You need to be polarizing. I've always said that, there are the raving fans, there are the haters, and then there are the sideliners. And I've also said that the sideliners are actually the most dangerous community to your brand, to you personally. It's the people who are in the middle. And so what you should constantly be doing is taking the middle people and either pushing them to be haters and saying, look, maybe this is not for you, or pulling them to become raving fans where they realize, like, okay, I want to drink more of what David's drinking. Like, I love this. And then they become, because other people, listen, frankly, will be like, I don't know what in the world Dave drank this morning, but he got fired up and he dropped a couple F-bombs. I'm out. And they'll be like, I don't want to talk to that guy. But that's fine. That's actually the objective, because we are beginning to pull the middle. We want to pull the middle apart and allocate them to be either raving fans or sideliners. And listen, you brought up a great example of that. Donald Trump. Go today and ask a couple people in line at Starbucks, what do you think about Donald Trump? I guarantee you, you're hard pressed to find somebody who's like,
Right.
I mean, right? They're either they
or worse, who's Donald Trump?
Right.
Right.
Right, because people who hate him will listen to him, and people who love him will listen to him.
Correct.
Yes.
Which gives him influence and power.
Yes.
And I think that's what's important about what you said is if you want to move people, you have to be willing to move them in either direction, right? Like movement is movement, and you can't decide which way people are going to move. But if you're unwilling to move people, that means you'll never move people to love you, and you'll never move people to hate you. Both have to happen. So you just have to say, I'm moving those sideliners from the middle to one direction. I don't care which way they go, because I'm not going to get more people that love me if I'm not willing to get more people that hate me. There'll be no movement.
And you got to serve both,
right?
In the respect that people don't think past the love and the hate part. And two, one of the other variables that are involved in the evolution of the audience or the community or the frequency or the neighborhood is that the size, scope, and scale of the neighborhood is so big. It actually elevates our ability to handle the unsubscribers and the haters. Because, you know, one of the things that was not realistic when Shawn and I were young, because Lacey's still young, like if you live in Knox, Indiana, a lot of those people never left Knox, Indiana. And so if you were polarizing, you wouldn't have very many friends. You just would not. What makes it so cool today is like literally down to some finite thing about like if you are the master of what was that lady? Oh, I know. Good example. I used to use this all the time. I haven't done it in years, but you guys were there when I used to do it. The pimple popper lady.
Oh yeah.
Like imagine if you lived in Knox, Indiana, and you like videoed your pimple popping and you told everyone you love pimple popping, and like how many friends are you going to have in Knox, Indiana? I'll tell you what, you're not on a Bravo TV show with millions of people that love you and are like, I freaking love watching pimples being popped. I love the pimple popper. Let's put her on TV. You know, that shit didn't happen. It didn't happen. And today it can. So you got to be, and this is why I love Get Book Solid, because it's so easy today to get book solid. Whatever that means to you, your personal life or your business, you can create a whole community of people that are buying from you and selling for you for life, even if you're a pimple popper.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
I have two sort of tangents on this discussion. One, we agree that we want to polarize. We want to having haters is a good thing.
Being yourself, by being yourself.
And when having the raving fans. But here's one thing I think is important. You do not need to hate the haters back. Right? So look, people are not going to like you. That doesn't mean that you have to say, okay, so now that you've chosen, right? Oh, screw Dave. I hate Dave. Dave's a taker. Keeps emailing me about these dinners. That doesn't mean you have to hate them, right? And listen, for me, I used to fall into that, right? So, okay, now you are the enemy. And now it's just like, okay, so right now you've chosen that you don't like what I'm standing for at this time. And so that's okay. But listen, people can change on both sides of this. So they may decide like, listen, at that time you were saying, popping pimples. And I thought that was like so childish, but now I actually am kind of interested in it. So whatever that is, people can change.
Donald
and you
Trump
can change.
is a good example. I mean, there's a lot of people that changed
True.
that changed their opinion on him in either direction, right?
And when they will still, because
and they will still, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the time, emotion, and value changes with people as well, and why we pray for their happiness, and to that measure, why you stick to who you are and allow yourself to change. So you can change your opinion as well. Besides the people who hate you or love you can change their opinion. So if you're saying something, I love pimple popping, and then you get sick of pimple popping, and all of a sudden you're like, that's disgusting. That's okay too. And so I think in the realm of energy and time, too many people waste their time not in their divine direction of who they are at their essence at that time. And that's why for me, circumstance is the word for 2025. You need to understand your relationship to circumstance, to the change of certain circumstance, the uncertainty of tomorrow. Because if we choose non-negotiable behavior that is not circumstantial, and then have a great prioritization system that is circumstantial, then we're going to be best off statistically in a mathematical sense. And I think that is directly relative to you being you and capturing, modifying, amplifying, and perpetuating your content, that you're going to resonate within the context of circumstance. And you allow people to change their mind and to say no. If you allow yourself and others to change their mind and say no, now you're working within the context of the human experience and of circumstance. And when you have a relationship with circumstance directly relative to your behaviors, you're going to be happier and be more fulfilled, passionate, purposeful, and profitable, if that's your objective, or be more aligned with your objective.
Okay, well, that was the second tangent that I wanted to take. I like that. And I'm not disagreeing with the concept.
I hope you realize I don't give a shit whether you agree or disagree. Because all it tells me is that you agree and disagree with a lot of my shit.
Well, the people care. That's what, you know. Everybody cares what I think. So
you put your glasses back on. Hide behind those suckers. Go ahead.
I think that circumstance is, there's two ways we could view circumstance. Circumstances could be viewed in a snapshot. So where I am right now, right? What's happening in my environment, internally and externally right now. But one of the other interesting things that I was contemplating this week is how often, and it goes, that was why when we started talking about this and we've moved off of getting over ourselves into raving fans and haters, and now into circumstance. And one of the things that I think when it comes to judgment that I've noticed that people tend to do is we judge in a snapshot moment. In essence, we judge in a pinpointed circumstance time. So I could look at you, maybe I see you at an Aspire event. You were super hungry. You had just flown in. You were sleep deprived. You still got up on stage, did your thing. You came off stage and you were like, listen, I just need a sandwich. And I was like, Dave. And you were like, can I just get a sandwich? And maybe you were a little bit short because you were hangry and tired. And in that moment, I judged a circumstance. And I was like, gosh, that guy Dave is a jerk. He's one thing on stage and he's a whole other thing in real life. But it wasn't. It was just in that circumstance, in that moment. However, the circumstance can also be a period of time. And the example that I find interesting is Steve Jobs, who by most accounts, in the early phases of his career, creating, founding, developing Apple, in those circumstances, a lot of people disliked him because of the way that he was. In the twilight of his career, and when, on his deathbed, he says all of these really, big, heavy things that then make people realize who he is. And then what we did is we begin to judge the growth of the individual. I wondered when I was looking at this is how many people wrote him off, right? Because they worked with him. He was so in that moment. He fired them. He was mean about it. He was so aligned with his purpose and his direction. And so these people were like, you are an absolute jerk. And then because of that circumstantial judgment, missed out on all of the rest of the growth and development, not only that the individual had, but that they could have had as well if they would have gone on the journey. If they would have just stayed and been a part of that ride. A new circumstance that could have arisen if they had not rushed to judgment about a moment in time. And I think that's really interesting because this aligns with haters. Like, how many people are haters collectively due to a circumstance or a judgment in a moment? Maybe even it didn't happen to them. Maybe I'm telling somebody, oh, Dave didn't even give me the time of day. And now other people are like, yeah, screw that guy. And they're judging this circumstance that's been passed on. And they're not, and maybe it was true. And maybe you're like, yeah, I remember when I used to speak and I didn't interact. And by the way, for everybody watching, that is absolutely not true about Dave. It's the absolute opposite. David's the one that shows up. But there are other speakers who refuse to interact with, they're there for their check and their time on the stage. But at the same time, I often would think about myself like, well, who are we to even judge that? Because in that circumstance, that's who they are and where they are. And maybe they're in a growth period that might be quite admirable.
It's exactly what we're talking about, because within the context of protection, promotion, love, and perfection, you nailed what we're most afraid of, which protects us the most. So I'll take Warren Moon in a real life example. Warren Moon was divorced. He had children rights like any dad. And we were in Orange County and we flew to Seattle, and he had to pick up his son from basketball practice like a normal dad, but he's effing Warren Moon. He's Warren Moon. Can you say that again, Shawn?
In Orange County?
We flew from Orange County to Seattle where his son lived.
Okay.
But our plane was late. And so we got off the plane, and Warren Moon takes the same perspective as I do. I do my best to spend time with people outside of the stage side of it. And so we're rushing through the airport like a normal dad who needs to go pick up his son from basketball, because not only is it his son from basketball, but he's divorced. And you know the exponentiality if you don't show up to pick your kid from basketball. And some super fan is like, Warren, can I take a picture with you? And he said, I'm so sorry, not now. And we keep walking, hurrying to go get his son from basketball practice. And the guy's like, you effing dick. And, screams at him. Now, he's going to go tell people that Warren Moon's a dick. I told Warren as we were driving, he goes, I feel so bad because that's not me, Dave. And this is the hardest part about being famous. I wish I was just you famous with you, where only one person ever knows you a day. And instead of, thousands, I'm like, yeah, it's much better. But I said to him, think about this. Do you want someone like that, or anyone that would listen to someone like that? After all the years you put into the community,
right,
that immediately says you're a dick because of one incident, you're being protected. Those aren't the people that you want. Those aren't the ones that you want. And it took a long time ego-wise to be okay with anyone that would say from an isolated incident and judge me on an isolated, you're not my frequency. You go follow Ed Milet or The Muscle or Elliot, Andy Elliott or whoever instantaneously jacks you off and makes you feel good. That is okay. So it is. That's their audience.
Yeah.
It started with the orangutan, man. I'm sorry.
It's in subconscious. It's a planted seed.
I'm channeling this shit. I don't even know what I'm saying. So if you hate me for the whole masturbatory language, then you may have another issue. Go by yourself and learn to love you. All right. Anyway, you understand though that we can see value in these circumstances ourselves and feel as if, you know what? I'm being protected because I only have so much time. I'd rather spend it with people that are forgiving because they understand shit. Maybe he was hungry, tired, or had to go pick up his son.
Yeah. I would just say as we end, I think it's really important if you're having insight on this idea of circumstance and, you haven't fully reconciled that it's okay to be judged like that. Sometimes they're not right for you. Just make sure in a mirror moment that you aren't out there judging people based off circumstance or holding on to judgments from past circumstances. So if you want to be relieved of that from your audience, you have to relieve anytime you've done that as well. And I think that's always important when we're doing the self-reflection, because that's also part of getting out of your own way.
In a super rare moment, we don't have any next upcoming thing that we're putting together for all of the fans.
Oh, I do.
I'm saying us together.
Oh, we do. You just don't know it. First of all, we got tons of stuff because you have something going on this weekend, and anything that you do is ours. So I know we have a lot of people. What are you doing this weekend?
We're doing sales, revenue, and profit in Naples, Florida, teaching people how to get more sales, which obviously leads to more revenue and leads to more profit.
Yeah, and I'll be right up the street from you in Charlotte with Ed Milet in the Aspire Business Tour, then Super Bowl. And we have the launch of the More Than Enough Meltzer sandwich. It's in a new category called the No Po Boy category. We don't want anybody po. So the No Po Boy, 1:00 on Friday. Come to Ike's Love and Sandwiches. We'll be able to get that sandwich after the Super Bowl at 120 stores plus around the country. One of my greatest honors to have the Meltzer More Than Enough sandwich, and we'll be on Radio Row with Sirius XM. We'll be at super cool. I'm doing the Players Impact with Mike Tannenbaum, and we have not only Marshall Falk and Ray Lewis, but Patrick Peterson and Calvin Johnson, who I haven't gotten to interview Calvin Johnson yet. So there's a lot of cool stuff at the Super Bowl. We got a mastermind tomorrow here, as well as the release of Go Fund Yourself with Shawn and Lacey will be Titans next season, filming with us for Go Fund Yourself. We got a lot of shit going on. See, Go Fund Yourself. Aren't we filming together soon anyway? So there's tons.
I'll be there Monday.
Always stuff going on.
I'll see you Monday. Shawn's not going. I'm going.
Yeah. I wanted stuff that we could invite other people to, though. We gotta connect on masterminds and all that other stuff. So I want the community to come together.
Well, we got the masters. We have the masters, and we're doing a masters mastermind for sure. So very limited, 16 spots. I think 8 are already taken, just so you know, Shawn. So we have 16 spots available, but you get to go into the masters at least 2 days, option to go in Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, hospitality, VIP transportation. It is the top of the top mastermind. And the masters is truly like none other. So is Shawn and Lacey. Go ahead, bring us home, my favorite doctors of 528.
Catch us everywhere. Reach out to David at dmeltzer.com, Shawn at adaptapreneur.com. Brand new email for all of you guys. Check us out. We'll hook you up, get you plugged in. We love you, appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to